Is the U.S. right now in a situation where they have to be more aggressive against Russia and Vladimir Putin?
You know, and it is pretty remarkable. We're just coming up on 7 months since the invasion, which, again, was telegraphed for a while, but no one really thought Putin would do it. You know, this has been a challenge in the situation where the EU really has to be the tip of the spear. It's in their backyard. The U.S. has been working extremely closely with its allies in the U.K. and Europe, but the U.S. has to be somewhat measured in its response. I do think with every passing move that President Putin makes, just further galvanizes the resolve of the West. And this pending 8th round of EU sanctions, again, there's still more in the tank. There's still powder that was kept dry to further escalate things in terms of isolation of Russia.
The isolation of Russia from the West is almost a given. It's fairly consensus right now. What's not consensus is other places in the world, especially those in perhaps the Middle East and East Asia. I'm thinking specifically about places like India and China, two of the biggest economies in the world, that are still, China maybe not so much on the fence. They're kind of aligning with Putin right now, but showing some signs of maybe cracking in that relationship. India is now maybe on the fence a little bit more. How important is it to get everybody involved in condemning Vladimir Putin?
I think everyone has a role to play, maybe not get him totally involved. China is a bit unique, but you even saw reporting last night that North Korea is backing away from reports that they were supporting Russia. So, I mean, we've had Treasury officials from the U.S. have traveled to India, to the Middle East, to Turkey to put those countries on notice that your firms will be subject to sanctions. Earlier this week, we saw a handful of Turkish banks pull out of the Russian payment system Mir as the U.S. increased sanctions last week. So I don't know if everyone needs to totally be rowing in the same direction, but directionally, everyone has a role to play. With China, it's don't really provide material support economically from a military standpoint. For India, the UAE, Turkey, the countries known to still be transacting with Russian businesses, I think they have a different opportunity to begin winding back some of that activity.
You know, Dan, I work in business news. We're a business news network, and for that reason, we keep abreast of all of these headlines, and we kind of focus them towards how they impact economies and markets. The sense I get right now as a journalist in business news is that we are paying way more attention, and the markets are very much more skittish about interest rate policy and the Fed than they are about bullets and missiles in a very sensitive part of the world. Are we due for more volatility because of this, or are the markets focusing on the right things right now?
Well, I think you saw movements a few months ago when Russia began messing about with pipelines and gas flows. And, it's been made clear that humanity will find a way to find energy and commodities outside of Russia. I think once there began to be comfort in at least the beginnings of a plan and a ban in the importation of certain Russian energy, that it did begin to numb the market's reaction a bit to some of these moves because you expected them to be shut out. But there's still a lot of financing happening of Russian-related activity. Let's remember, all ag-related activity is not sanctioned. So Russia could still transact on the open market, but there's still more room for businesses to wind down Russian-related activity, which could have broader market impact. But 7 months into this, we're going to be here for the long run. These sanctions are like a slow bleed for the Russian economy as we watch with further rounds of military support for Ukraine and further Western sanctions against Russia.